Morning, friends, and welcome to this special briefing on the state visit of His Highness General Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces, who, as you know, is going to be the chief guest at our Republic Day parade day after tomorrow. He is arriving late this evening today, and we expect very substantive outcomes from this very important visit. So to brief you on that, I have with me Secretary Economic Relations, Shri Amar Sinha, as well as our ambassador to the UAE, Shri Navdeep Suri. Secretary ER will give you the overall picture through a comprehensive opening statement, and thereafter our ambassador to UAE would also be able to supplement once in case you have any questions. So with that, I give the floor to Secretary ER.
Thank you and good morning. I guess a lot has already been written in the media about this visit, so I don't know how much we can add. But what I'll do is give you an overview of the program, which is fairly simple and standard in a way. Also, a little bit of background and the major outcomes that we are expecting. So you know that he will arrive today, mid-evening, around 4:30. His arrival, he's coming with a large delegation, a number of ministers and a large number of businessmen also. Of course, the business part and the economy minister would also be participating. Besides the events in Delhi, we'll also go to Visakhapatnam for the CII's Partnership Summit on 27th and 28th. I think they're there on 27th. We'll be participating with the business delegation. Here the drill is, well, tomorrow he'll be received. Tomorrow is the official day of visit, 25th. So he'll be received at the forecourt, Rashtrapati Bhavan. Then he goes to Rajghat. Then he goes for a one-to-one meeting with the Prime Minister at Lok Kalyan Marg now. After that is the delegation level talks at Hyderabad House, where Prime Minister and the Cabinet would be there. Prime Minister would be hosting a banquet lunch for him tomorrow, followed by the usual press statements and I think exchange of agreements. In the afternoon tomorrow, then he meets, the Vice President will meet him. And then in the evening, he calls on the President, and there's a banquet hosted by our President. That's for tomorrow. Day after, as he has said, that he's the chief guest for 26th January celebrations. So besides witnessing the parade, where we are actually getting a contingent from the UAE Air Force also, which will be parading along with our forces on Rajpath. He will also attend the at-home function in the afternoon hosted by our President, and from where he departs actually for UAE and the rest of the delegation which stays on for Vizag. Needless to add, UAE has seen intense activities and engagement over the last since August 2015. Both the leaders have invested a lot of personal time and energy, and this is actually you can see the chemistry and the warmth of the rapport that has developed between them, and of course from India's perspective, UAE remains one of our key partners in the Gulf. I guess there can't be no other better explanation that we had to pull out one of our top diplomats and the brightest diplomats to come and serve as ambassador in UAE. That's a testimony to how we look at this relationship and nurturing this relationship. As you know, Prime Minister visited UAE in August 2015. It was followed by a visit by the Crown Prince here in February 2016, and then less than a year he's here as the chief guest. So that itself shows that we are paying a lot of attention. And basically because it's driven by four key factors, which I would call the pillars of our relationship. First is trade and commerce. UAE remains one of our major partners. Last year, the numbers were an impressive $50 billion. Plus, it is a gateway for a lot of our exports to Africa and to Central Asia, etc. Then, of course, is investment. UAE also has the largest sovereign wealth fund. We are looking at investments. There's an agreement that they would invest nearly $75 billion in India over the next couple of years. And during the visit, we are hoping that there will be an MOU signed between their investment fund and what we call the NIIF, National Investment Infrastructure or Infrastructure Investment Fund that we have created on our side. So that's at an advanced stage. The second element, of course, is obvious energy security, which is the big pillar, which is the fifth largest exporter of oil, and we foresee that it will remain as a key partner. We are adding a new element to this relationship of just being a buyer, that UAE has decided to become our strategic partner in the energy sector and will be, well, both investing and filling up one of our key strategic petroleum reserves. We hope that the negotiations would conclude today, and a last few issues are remaining, and we would be able to sign an MOU on that. Third is, of course, welfare of the Indian community. 2.6 million people there. It is a very, very important destination for Indian workers, both blue-collar, white-collar, Indian investments, and also people investing actually in real estate in Dubai. These are all huge areas of cooperation. In this, a good outcome of the last visit has been that they have decided that Abu Dhabi has provided land for a temple for the community, and the community committee is taking that thing forward. Then, of course, defense and security is emerging as a new area of cooperation. Here, of course, it's based on shared views, concerns about common threats. So we are hoping that this visit would solidify some of the ideas that the governments have worked on, and you will see substantial results at the end of the visit in this area of security and defense. In terms of the outcomes, see, we already had, the decision was taken that we will sort of raise our relationship to a strategic partnership level. However, we are still signing an agreement which is more like an action plan, which fleshes out the idea of strategic partnership and brings in concrete ideas what the two sides are committed to doing. Besides this, there would be, of course, a joint statement that will be issued, which would give the vision of the two leaders on how they look at this relationship evolving over the years. I also mentioned that there would be an MOU on NIIF and investment authorities. There would be most probably an agreement on strategic partnership in oil sector. Then we will have an MOU in defense, particularly focused on joint manufacturing, purchase of equipment. We, of course, are looking for markets as our defense industry expands, but importantly, UAE is also looking for dependable partners who can actually provide them equipment without conditionalities and also supply it when they need it the most. So that reliability and stability of the partnership is something that they are looking for in India, and we also feel that UAE will remain a very, very critical partner for us in the future. Then there are a host of other, besides energy security, there is something else on predictability of trade remedies. We are doing an MOU with Commerce and their investigating authorities so that the products that we exchange between each other have a certain predictable legal framework, and when anti-subsidy or anti-dumping investigations happen, there would be closer cooperation, exchange of views, and importantly, before we go into this quasi-judicial sort of path, if we could find sort of mutually acceptable remedies even before that. So that is another key request that we had. For the diplomats, we are looking at having an exemption in terms of visa exemption for diplomatic and official and special passport holders. Then we are also looking at an MOU on maritime transport. Now, this is key because one of the main objectives we have been sort of following is to somehow increase this people-to-people contact, increase tourism. And we are really looking at working on developing cruise tourism between the west coast of India and UAE and some of the other destinations in the Gulf. Then there would be bilateral cooperation in land transport. But I won't go through the list because you will have this tomorrow. So I think I would stop here and we will take questions unless our ambassador wishes to add something else. I may add that as a preparation, we had the first strategic dialogue headed by their Minister of State, Mr. Gargash, and our own MOS, MJ Akbar, on 20th. We discussed various elements of the strategic partnership and the nuts and bolts of our relationship. Thank you.
Floor is now open for questions. Manish.
सर जब प्राइम मिनिस्टर यूएई गए थे तब ये बात आई थी कि $75 बिलियन यूएई इन्वेस्ट करेगा इंडिया में. 1.5 साल करीब बीत चुके हैं, तो क्या स्टेटस है, कितना इन्वेस्टमेंट आया अब तक?
देखिए, अभी तक तो उनका करीब $4 बिलियन है ऑलरेडी इन्वेस्टेड, और बहुत सारी कंपनियां हैं जैसे MR है. यू सी, व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग 75 बिलियन, वी आर लुकिंग एट द sovereign investment fund. Besides this, there are major companies which have invested. DP World, for example, is a major investor in India. MR is a major investor in India. Then Etisalat had invested here. Of course, some of these have some legacy issues, which also we are looking at resolving, so that they have that level of confidence in the Indian economy. And the fact is that they are looking at both portfolio investments as well as investments in greenfield. They are also looking at upstream and downstream industry in petroleum sector. That they are negotiating not with the government but with some private companies which are willing to sell. Will you add?
Yeah, if I can just add on that, as Secretary said, that the $75 billion figure really refers to investment by some of their sovereign wealth funds in Indian infrastructure. But if you go beyond that, there are two major categories of UAE investments that have taken place in India. Dubai Holdings, for example, is the main partner for the Kochi Smart City, and that smart city is coming up first as one of the most ambitious projects of its kind. There's another company from UAE which has invested significantly in Chennai. It's called KEF Infrastructure, to establish an entire prefabricated structures facility. So when you talk about affordable housing or hospitals or schools, they will do they're already manufacturing prefabricated structures in India. Even their sovereign wealth funds, RDA, for example, the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, has invested in the last year over $500 million into Indian green energy companies. They have invested into real estate companies. So there is a lot of other investment action that is taking place beyond what that big ticket item is. One more point to add, Vikas, is that in addition, the new trend that we are seeing is some of the best established NRI companies in UAE have also started to invest in a very significant way in India, and that's a sign of their increased business confidence in India. The Lulu Group, for example, has established India's biggest hypermarket in Kochi, and they're setting up a second one in Thiruvananthapuram. The NMC Group is establishing hospitals in India, as is the Universal Hospitals Group. So whether it's in real estate sector, in retail sector, in some, even in manufacturing, you see that some of the big NRI-owned companies out of Dubai and Abu Dhabi are also putting money into India.
Parikshit.
So over the last few weeks, there have been talks about India wanting UAE to seize properties of Dawood Ibrahim on their soil. Have there been any developments on that front, especially when that strategic dialogue took place?
You want us to alert everybody and that they move their properties and their titles underground. I think best is it's left unsaid till something happens.
This was answered by MOS MJ Akbar also at the press conference, where we said we do not discuss specific cases in the public domain. And that's how it will remain. Suhasini.
One clarification, one question. When you say $75 billion, you said $4 billion has already come in. This is not part of the $75 billion.
No.
Because from what we understand from UAE officials, the $75 billion sovereign wealth fund hasn't even been set up yet. It has only been announced a year and a half ago. It hasn't been set up yet.
Yeah, the MOU is being finalized now with NIIF. You see, because NIIF itself didn't have an administrative structure. That came up only a couple of months ago. And since then, the CU has been to Abu Dhabi. They have talked to each other. They have exchanged an MOU. We are hoping that they'll sign it.
All right. And the question was about India-UAE strategic partnership when it comes to counter-terrorism forces. Has the UAE asked India about joining forces in any way to counter terror, particularly the ISIS threat? in the Middle East, the coalition that the UAE is already part of? Are we looking at any kind of joint partnership over there?
That, of course, coalition of 34 or 39 that they have, I don't think that has ever been raised with India. And I don't think they will be ever raised. Yes. But yes, a general cooperation in terms of intelligence sharing, specific action against others, and I think the Kandahar incident recently perhaps had brought home the fact that the threat is very common, that UAE diplomats also got killed. So that is also something that would be an issue that would be discussed here.
Dr. Awad.
Thank you, Mr. Vikas. Mr. Sinha, is this kind of security arrangement and defense arrangement in the Gulf state, because you have a stakehold in the event of any eventuality happening there? Is there any visionary from Indian side how to see the stability and security maintained in this part of the world, where you can safeguard your own interest as well and the region?
Well, we will be working with them, both, as I said, in intelligence sharing, that's on specific terrorist threats, but besides on a larger security issue in terms of their air defense capabilities, their patrolling, anti-piracy, and maritime security, cyber security, because ultimately the largest threat emerges from the radicalization and online radicalization that is happening. But given the policies, we don't see UAE as a society which is veering towards radicalization. In fact, the policies are exactly the opposite. And obviously our discussions will focus on what else we need to do to insulate ourselves from this virus.
So you mentioned about the defense MOU. Can you please elaborate about what are the products we are looking at selling to UAE, and what kind of defense manufacturing and production arrangement we are looking at?
Going into details, but obviously we are looking at armaments, we are looking at armored person carriers, we are looking at joint production of aircrafts, because, for example, to give you an example, well, I'm not saying that it's concrete, but Rafale is an aircraft which we are buying. UAE also uses. So there is this interest that is there something that we can do together in terms of the portion of the Rafale that would be built in India. So those are the areas we are trying to sort of identify and work together.
Srinjoy.
So some weeks ago, a delegation of the DRDO had gone to the UAE, and this was on discussing the possibility of selling the BrahMos missile there. Could you tell us what has happened on that? And also, so on the Indian sailors who are stuck in England, if you could tell us.
This is a briefing, Srinjoy. How many times do I have to say? This is a briefing on the visit of the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. It's not my regular weekly briefing. Yes.
The discussions have happened. I don't have the exact details. But we are also looking at products which have been designed and developed in India, because, as you know, it becomes easier to export it. So, correct, half Indian. We would focus on full Indian to begin with. You see, it's a question of who holds the IPR. So if it becomes a trilateral or a quadrilateral, it becomes slightly more difficult, and since more countries are involved. But there are products which India has developed, and there are several.
Elizabeth.
So I just wanted to know about this MOU between the Sovereign Wealth Fund and the NIIF. The MOU that's going to be initial tomorrow, hopefully, is going to obviously pave the way. But does that establish the structure for, the governance structure? Or, could you just give us any details about this, if possible?
Look, the issue of the arrangement with NIIF has been under very active discussion. It's taken us a while to establish NIIF. It's taken us a while to appoint a CEO, which only happened last September. Look at his team today. It's hardly 5 or 6 people. It's going to take a while before NIIF, as the big umbrella body which will do serious investments in infrastructure, really has that capacity to absorb significant amount of funds and be in a position to invest. We see Abu Dhabi Investment Authority as a crucial partner with NIIF. It's going to take a while to have that mechanism in place, the capacity in place to invest big time in major projects. What I can tell you coming from Abu Dhabi is there's very strong interest from ARDIA in working with NIIF as the vehicle and to follow up on the conversations that we have been having and will be having tomorrow. RDI have already told us that they are sending a really top-level team in the end of February with several of their sectoral heads, their executive directors, to look at particular opportunities. I see this as a work in process. I don't see it as an event that happens at a point of time. So you'll have broad umbrella arrangements, but the specifics of that $75 billion flowing through NIIF into ports, highways, airports, renewable energy or other sectors is going to take a while. And for that, we have to have large, commercially viable, credible projects that we can offer to investors. So there's work to be done yet.
MOU will provide the framework, between NIIF and, for the modalities actually to be worked out and for the funds to start getting processed. He also wants to add a little bit.
While the MOU will also create the administrative structure, how that fund would be sort of administered jointly. But without waiting for that, we have actually in October, when we had the Economic Forum meeting, we did make sectoral presentations, both on railways and highways. And we had identified, I think, 5 or 6 projects each, which is ripe for investment even without the NIIF route. So that is a call that they have to take, that where they would wish to invest. But let me also add that we are also looking at new areas, besides the 4 traditional sort of pillars that I mentioned. Of course, defense and security would be enhanced substantially. But we are also looking at space cooperation, where there's a great interest. We are looking at civil nuclear energy cooperation, and of course greater cooperation in IT and IT services. So these will be the 3 new focus areas from our perspective.
Naz?
You said the 2 countries are having a strategic partnership in energy security. So what else besides what is going on at present, what in future is going to happen in this sector?
No, I think Secretary was very categorical. He said that UAE is the 5th largest supplier of crude oil to us. They are going to be investing in one of our strategic oil reserves. We have several locations. One of the locations, I think they'll be our partners. And then that will contribute to overall India's energy security. So I think that's fairly clear.
So for long, UAE has been considered as a very close friend of Pakistan. What are the factors that that have resulted in UAE seeming to move towards India and away from Pakistan? And there's a school of thought that Saudi Arabia and UAE are moving closer to India because the Pakistan army refused to participate in the campaign in Yemen. So do you lend credence to this? And so what are the factors basically that we have seen that they have moved closer to us and away from the Pakistanis?
I wouldn't like to speculate on factors that affect UAE's relation with other countries. Of course, they're all driven by the dynamics and the realities. What I can talk to you is about why India is a preferred destination or as a partner. And I think the answers are obvious. They realize the potential of the Indian economy. Indians form the largest expatriate group, which has not only contributed but has been extremely peaceful and very well sort of adjusted to the society. So it has some education, healthcare. These are all important destinations for UAE and the other Gulf countries. They come to India. I don't know whether that's going to Pakistan. Now, whether it's a conscious move or it's a natural, I think, sort of progression of relationship given the dynamics of the region, I will leave it for you to speculate.
Yeah.
Sir, you talked about legacy issue of big investments of UAE. What are the specific demands from UAE and how India is going to solve this Is there any time frame for this?
Well, specific demand is that we resolve these issues quickly. That's in a nutshell. It has taken time because we are unable to predict. These are not executive decisions. These are all issues which are sub judice. We are in different courts. So we are trying to see whether we can sort of ring fence some of their investors without diluting the main cases, because there are people who are involved, there are Indians also who are involved in these cases. So we don't want to, government doesn't want to do anything which sort of dilutes the overall case. But given that restriction and the fact that our judiciary will have to, I think, work with them so that we have early resolution of these cases.
If I can just, Amar, if I can just to that in several cases we have made tangible progress. Several of the so-called legacy cases have been resolved by the high-level task force that was established after the last visit, and our friends in UAE acknowledge the progress that has been made in the last several months in resolving some long-standing cases.
I don't see any other questions, so this press conference comes to a close. Just a reminder that at 4 o'clock we'll have another press conference which will be addressed by MOS General V.K. Singh and MOS Posts Shri Manoj Sinha on the integration of the Passport Seva project with post offices, which is also, I think, is going to be a revolutionary step in making passports easier to obtain for ordinary Indian citizens. So do come for that one as well. Thank you all.